Late Friday night, the CBC announced that the Department of Defense has charged somebody with espionage. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. A member of Canada's intelligence agency has been charged with espionage, the Department of National Defence informed the CBC on Thursday evening. A non-commissioned member of the Canadian Military Intelligence Branch has been charged with passing classified information to a, quote, foreign entity, close quote, the Department of National Defence revealed late Thursday. Master Warrant Officer Matthew Robar was arrested Wednesday by military police and faces 8 charges under the National Defence Act. He's accused of, among other things, communicating, quote, special operational information, close quote, and breach of trust, according to a statement issued by the Defense Department. Robar is being held in custody, the Department of National Defense says. According to military police, the investigation into Robar began in 2024 following the alleged unauthorized disclosure of information to a foreign individual or group. The military's intelligence branch, the Canadian Forces Intelligence Command, cooperated fully with investigators, the department said. In a statement late Thursday night, the Defense Department confirmed Robar is being held in custody. However, a spokesman refused to say when he'll appear before a military judge. To protect the integrity of the future judicial process and the sensitivities around the investigation into matters concerning national security, no further information will be provided upon the details of the investigation, Captain Susan Doe said in a statement via email. The Defense Department also refused to confirm where he was based or precisely what his job was within the military intelligence. So if I understand this correctly, this individual Robar, who's likely a DEI hire, passed sensitive information to a foreign government or entity. The Canadian government won't tell us where he is, won't tell us where he was serving, won't tell us what country he was dealing with, and won't tell us when he's supposed to appear in court. I guess no matter where you go inside of this Liberal government, they just want to treat us like mushrooms. The public relations war between supporters of the F-35 and Gripen has taken another twist as internal Department of National Defence document comparing the two jet fighters has been leaked. Canada's jet fighter debate continues with still no decision from Prime Minister Mark Carney on which aircraft his government will purchase. The choice comes down to the US-built F-35 versus the Swedish Gripen fighter aircraft. Some analysts are proposing a combination fleet of both jets to meet Canada's military needs. What exactly was leaked? On November 26th, Radio Canada reported that it had obtained the Department of National Defence, DND, technical scoring statistics of the F-35 and Gripen. The internal confidential document, which was part of the original bid evaluations in 2021, shows the F-35 dominating the Gripen in terms of technical and military capabilities, Radio Canada has reported. Defense industry analysts point out that the leaked document was so confidential that even Saab, the firm that builds the Gripen, had never seen it before. They suggest that individuals inside the DND and the Royal Canadian Air Force are behind the leak in an attempt to put further pressure on Carney to choose the F-35. Does the scoring chart tell the whole story? The F-35 supporters say the scoring is undeniable proof that the aircraft is far superior to the Gripen. But the Gripen camp points out that the chart is from 4 years ago, and the new version of the Gripen is significantly advanced. The chart was also produced before the latest significant problems dogging the F-35 emerged. Those issues are around the Block version 4, the specific type that Canada plans to buy. The Block 4 is at least $6 billion over budget and 5 years behind schedule, the U.S. Government Accountability Office, a congressional watchdog organization, revealed on September the 3rd. A couple things I would say about this. First of all, if the military wants the F-35, who are you to tell them that they don't know what they're talking about? These aren't individuals who are worrying about politics. They are worrying about getting the job done. Mark Carney is worrying about his business friends and what goes into his pocket and laughing all the way at our expense. The individuals who join the military are not motivated by those things. And so if they say this is the better equipment, then I think we need to look at that as being the better equipment. Saab trying to say that, well, it's 4 years ago, That doesn't that for every advancement you've made in the last 4 years, the Americans could say the same thing. To say, oh, it's over budget by $6 billion in 5 years. Well, I mean, I can tell you 100 things that the Liberal government is over budget by more than $6 billion. They went over that much on an app for the COVID screening at the border. So let's be straightforward. They wasted much more money than that. And lastly, you don't mix your fighter jets like that. You have a fighter jet line. You have different jets, but they do different jobs. The idea, of course, is that you need the munitions. You need to have the spare parts. If for whatever reason these planes get mixed together and they all land at one airfield, but they don't only have parts to repair or munitions to repair and reload and rearm one of those styles of planes, then the other ones are just sitting there like paperweights. We have to think of this as a military strategy. We have to think of this as a people who are fighting with their lives to defend our lives. If they say they want this jet, if they say this is the jet and they only want this one brand, I don't know who the bureaucrats in Ottawa think they are, that they can just try to argue about it because they have some issue with Donald Trump. That's ridiculous. If you can't set aside your own personal feelings, you are not qualified to lead the country. You're certainly not qualified to pick the munitions and the equipment that these fighting people of ours are going to be utilizing in an effort to defend our land and our people. In our next story, we're going to be talking about the Department of Defense again and how they have this plan to mobilize 300,000 DEI hires, give them firearms and a 1-week training on drones, and they're going to act as the last line of defense between you and I and any of the foreign entities that around the world that might try to invade or take over Canada. Now, the CBC is trying to take credit for this, but the Ottawa Citizen released this story a couple of months ago. DND proposes mobilizing a citizens' army of 300,000. Here's what that could include. Canada's Department of National Defence plans to mobilize 300,000 citizen reservists following commitments made at a NATO summit in Washington, D.C. in 2024 to strengthen military readiness. The proposal, obtained by CBC News, but I've already told you was released originally by the Ottawa Citizen, I believe it's called, will be presented to the federal government in the coming months. Well, let's hope that nobody invades before then. While Canada had various mobilization schemes during the First and Second World Wars, the new Director General position is, according to a defense expert, the first of its kind and faced with the daunting mission of delivering 100,000 reserve soldiers with an additional 300,000 citizen soldiers in a supplementary reserve should the need arise. That would be on top of an estimated 85,500 regular or full-time forces of soldiers, sailors, and aircrew. Existing supply chains, inventory, and personnel systems are already at capacity, says an internal slide deck presentation dated July 2025 from the Defense Department's Material Branch. The briefing noted the system was already struggling to re-equip the regular force and that the new initiative success will be, quote, predicated on a gradual intake due to current inventory and warehousing and contract limitations. The country's top military commanders said they are working on options to present to the federal government, hopefully by the spring. They are currently doing an analysis of what is in the realm of possible, said the Chief of Defense Staff General Jenny Kerrigan. Basically, they are planning to plan. So what is clear is we do not have a plan as of yet. We need to figure out how we are going to do this. And the first step is to figure out what are the roles and the missions of the Strategic Reserve. The part-time force would be mostly employed at home, she said. Well, I don't know about you at home, Canada, but I'm feeling inspired. A directive signed last spring by Kerrigan and Deputy Defense Minister Stephanie Beck is much broader and envisions the supplementary reserve would be used for, quote, low-intensity natural disaster response to high-intensity, large-scale combat operations, close quote. Kerrigan doesn't see an invasion threat to the country, but believes there is a variety of other potential threats, such as missile strikes, that would require an organized response. The Ottawa Citizen was the first to report on mobilization directive signed last spring by Kerrigan and Beck, which envisioned federal servants, among others, volunteering for the supplementary force. Some of the new supplementary reserve could get hand-me-down uniforms from a stock of currently retired outfits, the briefing suggested. The presentation also said industry will need help retooling. Quote, "This is possibly the tallest order that the Canadian Armed Forces, in my view, has received since the end of the Cold War," close quote, said Christian Leprecht, a professor of Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston, Ontario. Quote, "Because we need to reconstitute the regular force, we need to significantly and massively expand the primary reserve and then build the supplementary reserve. And all the while, we should be worried about what their uniforms look like. Am I the only one who thinks that there are way bigger things to be concerned about than what they're wearing? I mean, is it just me? Or do you think that the first thing we should be looking at for our military is what are they going to wear? And do they have the nail polish to match?" I mean, where to begin to unpack this fiasco? We could start with the Liberal government, who wants to take people who work for them that have no physical training whatsoever, give them firearms training 1 week a year, teach them how to fly drones in that same week, send them home with a firearm and a bag full of munitions, I suppose, and perhaps an email address that they can tune in or write into when they get the right code on their cell phone. At the same time, this very same government is saying that individuals who legally own firearms are not permitted to have them. So I guess all you need to do to get a firearm in this country is work for the federal government. Of course, if you give me the choice between the guy who's got the firearm and the hunting equipment in the house all the time, and he spends like a month, every couple of months out in the woods, whatever he happens to be, birds or deer or whatever it happens to be, versus the individual who has never in their life fired one and only has about 42 hours firing 6 bullets, I can assure you which one I'm going to go with. And it's not going to be the bureaucrat. Why our federal government is telling us that we need to give up our legally owned firearms at the same time as telling us that they're going to protect us with 300,000 citizen soldiers who in their life couldn't run from here to there, have never fired a firearm, do not understand the first concept of discipline or following orders under pressure. In addition to that, that's where they're talking about those that might be religiously or diametrically opposed to firing a weapon at another individual. I mean, it's not something that can just be done easily, despite what television makes you believe. Then you have to have them come to certain rally points where you will need to have an individual in charge. You will need to have food to give them at that time. You will need to be able to train them how to do crowd control, because the second that somebody knows one of these individuals is working for the government as the reservist, they're going to be looking to them in the moment of a crisis. They're going to be looking to them and saying, hey, how are we going to solve all these problems? So is that individual of this random 300,000 bureaucrats capable of that? Are they capable and competent of seeing the look of 25 children looking at them like, hey, save us, protect us, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Or are they going to crash into the pressure? I just don't think that this is a well thought out plan. I don't believe that in the worst case scenario, these individuals are going to do anything but give up hard earned firearms to the enemy. But the documentation that you heard me read, and you can finish the article if you want, I didn't leave out much, concerned itself with uniforms. It didn't worry about training. It didn't worry about weapons proficiency. It didn't worry about any of that. It worried about what are they going to be wearing. Well, I would imagine that the one thing they're all going to be wearing is a look of terror on their face when they realize that they are in charge of 1,000 people who are all looking to them to protect not only the 1,000 people, but all the 1,000 people's belongings, and so on and so forth. So I would imagine that what they'll be wearing will really not occur to them at all, as all of that crushes down on them in a moment's notice, an emergency moment's notice. Oh yeah, this is a great idea. I mean, you can't even think of anything that can go wrong with this scenario, this setup. On top of all of that, you broadcast to the entire planet that we don't even have uniform. I mean, you put it out on the national news agency, the liberal propaganda agency of the CBC. And you said, yeah, we don't got uniforms. We got about 80 people under arms, 85,000 people under arms. We're looking to maybe beef that up to 400,000. Countries like China's like 400,000. I mean, we had that many people retire from our military last year. We got millions. But don't worry about it. We'll just announce to the world that not only do we not have any uniforms, we don't have any munitions, we don't have any, we got nothing. Let's just let the whole wide world know it. And at the same time, we're going to fill those ranks with individuals whose largest claim to fame was that they got hired by the federal government, not for their skills, but because of the way they looked. Yeah, this plan can only succeed. I'm quite certain of it. I'm going to wrap here. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.